Imagine walking into a bank, confident, successful, and ready to handle your business, only to be met with skepticism, side eyes, and outright disrespect. That's exactly what happened to a black millionaire who thought his wealth and success would speak for itself. But instead of being treated with dignity, he faced blatant racism from the very people who were supposed to serve him. It wasn't just an insult, it was a challenge. Little did they know, this man wasn't just any millionaire. He had a vision, a lesson, and a $200 million plan that would turn this humiliating moment into a powerful story they'd never forget. What happened next not only shocked the bank, but also sent ripples through the entire financial industry. Stay tuned, because this is more than a story of resilience. It's a lesson in turning disrespect into unstoppable success. This wasn't his first time at the bank. As a self-made millionaire, he had been in and out of high-profile meetings, managing deals and investments. But today felt different. From the moment he walked in, he could sense the unease in the room. The teller hesitated before addressing him, her tone cold and distant. When he asked to speak with a manager, the wait dragged on and whispers filled the air. It was as if his success was invisible to them, overshadowed by the color of his skin. But he wasn't about to lose his composure. Years of hard work and perseverance had taught him how to handle adversity. Yet, as he stood there, the frustration was undeniable. Why was he being treated this way? What was it about him that made them assume he didn't belong? The manager finally appeared, but what happened next only added fuel to the fire. The manager's eyes scanned him with a quick, dismissive glance, as though sizing him up in an instant. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone layered with skepticism. He calmly explained his request, a standard transaction that should have been routine. Instead of processing it, the manager asked for additional identification, then more documentation, and finally claimed that further verification would be required. It was clear this wasn't about policy, it was personal. As he stood there, enduring the silent judgment of the staff and even some of the customers, he couldn't help but reflect on how often he'd faced moments like these. Moments where his success wasn't enough to shield him from prejudice. But this time, it wasn't just about him. He thought about the countless others who might have been treated the same way, but didn't have the resources to fight back. The tension in the room was palpable, and the stakes had shifted. This wasn't just a transaction anymore, it was a stand. The manager left to double-check the details, leaving him standing there in the middle of the bank. People were starting to stare. He could feel their eyes on him, some curious, others judgmental. His calm demeanor didn't betray the frustration bubbling inside, but every second that passed felt like another attempt to chip away at his dignity. When the manager returned, she claimed there were unusual flags on his account and suggested he come back another day while they conducted further reviews. It was a thinly veiled excuse, and he knew it. But instead of raising his voice, he smiled, a quiet, knowing smile that seemed to unsettle her. He thanked her for her time and walked out, leaving the bank staff exchanging nervous glances. They thought the matter was over, but it was far from it. As he stepped outside into the crisp air, he pulled out his phone and made a call. "It's time," he said calmly. What happened next would be a wake-up call they'd never forget. The call wasn't to a lawyer or a publicist, it was to his team. Behind the scenes, he wasn't just a millionaire. He was a visionary entrepreneur who owned a thriving business empire. He gave clear, calm instructions to his staff, setting something in motion that would shift the entire narrative. While the bank may have underestimated him, they had no idea who they were dealing with. As the day unfolded, the manager and her team were oblivious to the growing storm. By the next morning, word of their actions had reached the corporate office. Unbeknownst to them, this wasn't just about a single bank branch anymore. Behind the scenes, he was leveraging his influence, contacts, and financial power to address the deeper issue at hand: systemic bias within the industry. Meanwhile, the bank staff began noticing unusual activity. Social media posts were surfacing, not directly naming names, but highlighting stories of inequality and bias in financial institutions. People were sharing their own experiences, and the pressure was mounting. Yet, this was only the beginning. Within days, the situation had spiraled far beyond what the bank could contain. The media caught wind of the story, fueled by the growing online buzz. Reporters started digging into the practices of the branch, uncovering troubling patterns that couldn't be ignored. Meanwhile, he remained quiet, focused, and intentional. It wasn't about revenge, it was about creating change. Then came the announcement that no one saw coming. Using his vast resources, he unveiled plans to launch a new initiative, a $200 million investment fund dedicated to supporting underrepresented entrepreneurs. The fund was designed to provide opportunities to those who, like him, had been underestimated and overlooked. The press conference sent shockwaves through the industry, forcing a spotlight on the bank's actions and the broader issue of racial bias in financial services. As the cameras rolled, he ended with a statement that left everyone stunned. "I don't need their apology. I'll build something better." The announcement didn't just make headlines, it inspired a movement. Entrepreneurs, activists, and communities rallied behind his vision, praising his ability to turn a moment of discrimination into an opportunity for empowerment. The bank, on the other hand, faced mounting pressure. Apologies were issued, policies were reviewed, and staff underwent mandatory training. But the real impact wasn't on the bank, it was on the people watching. His bold decision to take the high road showed the power of resilience and the importance of creating opportunities where they don't exist. The $200 million fund began changing lives, with countless stories of people finally getting the support they needed to succeed. As he walked away from the cameras that day, he knew this was just the beginning. The lesson wasn't just for the bank, it was for everyone. Never underestimate the power of turning disrespect into a legacy.